This is the 46 of 46 podcast Summit Sessions, where we'll talk all things Adirondack, backcountry, and beyond. From high peak stories and adventures to trail tips and tricks, we'll dive deep into the heart of these mountains and the people who passionately climb them. Adirondack maps and spruce traps, bushwhacks and backpacks. It's all here on the 46 of 46 Summit Sessions. Hey everyone, and welcome to part 2 of this week's Summit Sessions Double Shot, FKT style, here on the 46 of 46 podcast. In part 1, I spoke with Alyssa Godesky about her supported FKT attempt of the 46 high peaks during the week of August 17th, just 1 week ago, and now I'm going to speak with her friendly competitor, Adirondack local Sarah Kies, and get the full scoop on Sarah's FKT attempt during the same week. Day by day, peak by peak, we're going to hear exactly what Sarah experienced out on the trail. And in case you aren't aware, the FKT, or the fastest known time, is the fastest known time for a person to complete a specific route in a specific way, and it's officially logged on fastestknowntime.com. Sarah and Alyssa were competing head-to-head, though independently, starting at different times on different peaks, but they were each gunning for the same goal: to officially set the women-supported FKT of the rugged 46 high peaks of the Adirondacks. The supported FKT means that they have a support crew helping them complete the route, be it driving from trailheads or bringing them food, water, and gear in various places along the hike. The support crew is vital to these attempts, working behind the scenes to make sure everything goes off without a hitch. And though Alyssa Godesky edged out Sarah in terms of finishing time, Sarah still completely crushed her hike and completed all 46 high peaks, all 161 miles and 62,000 feet of elevation gain in 4 days, 22 hours, and 15 minutes. Amazing. She started at 12:15 a.m. Monday, August 17th at the Allen Mountain Trailhead and finished Friday the 21st at 10:30 p.m. on the Olympic Whiteface Mountain. Sarah is an accomplished professional ultra runner, sponsored by La Sportiva and Jolbo, and currently holds 5 different FKTs, including the fastest time up and down Mount Marcy, the tallest peak in New York, which she did in 2 hours, 45 minutes, and 6 seconds, as well as the FKT on the Great Range Traverse, which she completed in 6 hours, 37 minutes, and 29 seconds. It took me 15 hours to complete the Great Range Traverse. So yeah, she's pretty fast. But today, Sarah is here to take us through her FKT attempt, day by day, peak by peak. Sarah, welcome to the 46 of 46 podcast, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for reaching out. Yeah, I'm psyched.
Absolutely. First off, congratulations on what you did out there. Amazing work.
Thank you.
And so you're about 5 days removed now from finishing on Whiteface. Have you recovered, or are you still recovering?
Definitely still recovering.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you received tons of messages from people like since you finished or while you were out on the trail, but there was a lot of buzz about your hike from, the Facebook pages and the forums and everything here in the high peak. So it was pretty fun to follow along and watch everybody else follow along, especially people who wouldn't normally be interested in this sort of thing found themselves,
Sure.
excited by all of it. So that was very fun to watch. So I know there's a lot of people who are going to be very interested in hearing a firsthand account of what you went through.
Yeah, I think, the Adirondacks are so close to so many large metropolitan areas. In all my travels, around the country and the world, I've met quite a few people that know where they are and a little bit about them, So I think it's exciting for people, and they kind of can picture a place at least, and what we're doing.
For sure. Absolutely. Before we jump into the hike, let's start with a little background about yourself. How'd you get into racing and the outdoors, and at what point did ultra running come into the picture?
Sure. So I grew up here in Paul Smiths, actually, which is a very small town, but does have a post office, so it counts.
Perfect.
And, went to high school in Saranac Lake, where I currently live, and, did some traveling and things, but always wound up back here. It was some place that I felt pretty lucky to be able to come back to. And since, I wasn't a very competitive I didn't think I was a very competitive kid, or, I didn't really do sports. And when I got done with an AmeriCorps program right out of high school, I came back here to Saranac Lake and started just running recreationally, and soon realized that if I, wanted to run trail, I could cover a lot more ground quickly. And at that point it was, running the high peaks wasn't really even in my mind. It was still seemed too far out of reach, but I would, start just running the trails, in Paul Smith's or Lake Placid area. And soon, it was like, oh, this is fun and I'm good at this. I'm going to keep at it.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that led to now, fast forward, you're a professional ultra runner.
It's been, it's really been a wonderful journey. I actually out there thought a lot about how proud I am of my legs and where they've taken me.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah.
So obviously it makes sense with you being from the Adirondacks, wanting to set the FKT for the 46 high peaks in particular. Makes perfect sense. It's the main attraction. It's the big one here. Was there any other reason you wanted this record in particular?
So I have had this in the back of my mind for many years. Jan Welford is a good friend of mine, and,
Sure.
and he got me into ultra running actually originally. He got me to the starting line, I think, of my first ultra marathon at the Wakely Dam Ultra. And so I knew he had a lot of experience and, held the men's record for over a decade. And has done some other really exciting things in the high peaks. And so I always kind of looked up to him as a mentor. So, for years I thought about this, but really not like legitimately thought about it until the last couple of years. And I was doing longer distance, 100-mile racing and that sort of thing, that I thought, oh, maybe that's an option for me at this point. So, in years past, I've thought about it, but it's always been a little bit like the scheduling is just too tough. You really want to do this attempt in August, considering that like daylight and the bugs aren't bad and hopefully the weather's good. So, in my racing schedule in the past, I've always had, like I would be in France at the end of August or some other large, 100-mile race coming up. So this year being COVID year, there's no racing. And so it seemed like this would be the perfect opportunity.
Absolutely. I figured that would be the case. Now, did you and Alyssa coordinate going for this attempt at the same time, kind of as a race, for lack of a better word, on purpose, or was that just coincidence?
So she reached out to me, I think it was the beginning of July. I had noticed actually that she started following me on like Strava and Instagram and those platforms. I guess maybe it was in the springtime, and I didn't really know who she was, but then I was like, oh, I think that was the Long Trail woman, and then she reached out to me in the beginning of July and said she was going to be in the area to do some scouting and try for the 46 possibly this year. And I said, oh, the unsupported or the supported? She said the supported. I was like, me too.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't think she realized I was also going to, considering going for it. And so, I was like, what do you think about starting on the same day? Like not necessarily the same time, but, within the same 24-hour period. And again, because August is obviously the best time to do this, we'd probably be going around the same time anyway. We thought that'd be a fun way for other people to follow along and kind of highlight it. And I think it was great.
Yeah, I mean, it produced a lot of buzz. And, as I mentioned, everyone was following along, and people found themselves who would not normally be following along. So it was very exciting for all of us here at home, not out dying in the rain and on the trails.
Yeah.
So what does your training look like in general and regular times? And then what did you do specifically to prepare for this one? I would imagine you probably did some bushwhacks beforehand or something like that, but what does your training typically look like, and what did you do specifically for this attempt?
So I train year round. I run throughout the winter here, usually on roads, but then I transition to trail, once things open up. And so for this, I'd been training. I had a pretty great race calendar set up this spring. I was supposed to have actually been obviously in France for a race today, I think. Okay. But I was going to be in Italy in June, and was supposed to be in where I was going to be in Croatia in April. I had a whole lineup of things. So I was doing a lot of running throughout the winter, longer, just long distance stuff and working in some higher intensity things. And, I work with a coach David Roach, but I also coach myself. I have athletes all over the country and the world too. But yeah, so I was prepared to do some very long races. So this seemed to fit in well. And specifically for this, I did do the bushwhacks that I was thinking about doing beforehand, and then really just spent a lot of time in the mountains with friends. And I had a lot of women that I know, that had not run in the mountains or had some peaks they wanted to finish. So they were starting to reach out to me, about getting out and wanted a companion. So that was great. And so it was, I said, why not? I can get out there and do some training. And so it's just a lot of mountain time, which is what I love. So it was great.
Okay. So doesn't sound like you did anything that unusual or out of the ordinary for you for this specific attempt.
Not at all. Really.
You were kind of already game ready at this point.
Yeah. I think once I fully committed to it. I broke my ankle last year in March before a big race. And so I didn't compete at all last year, but I had some kind of lingering foot issues on that same side up until this spring that I was trying to work through. And so I wasn't sure, like in June, even, I think I was a little bit on the fence if the foot was going to be 110% or not. So I was a little bit hesitant, but once I fully committed, I definitely then transitioned to only running in the high peaks, only running real technical trail rather than, because a lot of times I'll run from home and run, some of the mountain bike trails or roads even, so really did change my focus to just the technical stuff.
Sure. So now you broke your ankle, you said last April, and then in June you were already back out there? Or did you mean June this year you started doing that?
June of this year I was.
Okay, got it. I was going to say, my God, that's quite the
that
turnaround.
Was in 2019. No, it took me out for a long time, actually longer than I wanted, but that's okay.
But you're back now. Now, what were how long were some of the races that you had planned? You're an ultra runner, so that's very interesting to hear how far you can go. So how long were they?
So the race in Croatia, I think was 120K distance. The Lavaredo is also 120K that I was going to do in Italy. And then I think the one in France, which is part of the UTMB series of races, was a short one. It was only going to be a 50K. But that was just for fun. So I could participate, but still be in France, which is amazing. If you haven't been to Chamonix, you should go.
Yeah. I'll put it on my calendar here.
Yeah.
So you're friends with Jan Welford, so I have to assume he helped you as you were dialing in your route. So how did you ultimately choose your route? I assume it probably changed 100 times.
Yeah, Jan definitely had an influence on my route choice. I think last year I had mentioned to him that I wanted to go for it. And again, with my broken ankle last year, I was hoping I would have bounced back a little faster. And, I wasn't able to compete in any events last year, but thought maybe I could go for the 46 last year. But it just never, my ankle was never strong enough. So he, we kind of did some brainstorming then, and he sent me kind of a list of what he would consider doing if he were to try it again. And so I kind of went off that a little bit and used Gaia to kind of map things out. And once you lay it all out, or even I did it on the paper map too, and when you lay it all out, there's only so many kind of efficient link ups that you can really do. And it's all kind of personal too, for myself, being an ultra runner, I wanted to get the runnable terrain out of the way the first day. Cause I knew that once I was tired and not able to run like I wanted to, if I was trying to just like walk into Allen, I would be frustrated. So I decided I'd do, all the runnable terrain first and be able to run that stuff.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So what did your gear look like as we continue talking about your prep? What did you have with you? Obviously, it's a supported hike, so people were probably bringing you gear at certain spots, but what did you take with you?
Sure. So I had been training pretty exclusively I run for La Sportiva, and we have a great lineup of mountain running shoes that are really well suited for the Adirondacks because their rubber is very tough. So I used the La Sportiva Mutant as my shoe of choice, and pretty much trained in that in the high peaks exclusively for this. I also used the La Sportiva Captiva a little bit too, and I really like that one. It's just not as supportive. And so for other gear, I had Lecky like trekking poles, but they're very lightweight, like trail run specific.